Hi, welcome to Psychic Tapestry. I'm Ken Kessler and she's Jonna Kay. Hi, Jonna.
Hi.
Thanks so much for joining us this evening, this afternoon, whenever anybody is listening to this. There's a couple quick ways that you can connect with us through psychictapestry.com, social media at Psychic Tapestry on Facebook, and I was going to say on Twitter, but we're not on Twitter anymore. But you can
And
look
it's
up
not
Psychic
Twitter
Tapestry.
anymore either.
Right. You can look up Psychic Tapestry on most social media places and you can find them and you can find Jonna on her website mediumjonnakay.com. I'll put a link to that down in the show notes. And this what we're going to talk about today on this episode is sort of a spin-off from the last one. We're going to let's start with ethics. And how do you know what a psychic's ethics are, or how do you find out?
Or how do you know when I say ethics, like if they're a legitimate reader kind of thing, and or if they just popped up on Facebook with a page and they are an actual reader, but they think social media is going to do all the work for them.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what I've seen is all these new readers who all of a sudden take one class and they're going to change their lives. In fact, I had a girl take my class and she was going to quit her job and do this for a living. I'm
Oh my
like,
gosh.
oh my God, it took me years, 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 years. And even still, after 25 years, I can't guarantee I'm going to make enough money this week to do everything. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's crazy to me.
I don't know what it is about metaphysical stuff that people think it's a road to riches. I mean, okay, there's John Edward, and he charges somewhere close to possibly over $1,000 for a reading, but that's really like an exception.
Yeah, he's had a couple TV shows. He has a very, he runs a website that makes a lot of money.
Hmm.
Like he does well. Last time I saw him, he was angry and mean, but that's a story for another day.
Okay.
And he
But
was my idol. Now he is my fallen idol. I swear.
I think it's like writers, they see Stephen King and they think, "Oh, look at all the money he's making. I'm going to do that."
Right.
Or or whoever the flavor of the month is on the pop charts. "Oh, I'm going to record a song and I'm
Well,
going to
I
be
think,
famous."
and the ghost hunters, I think, are the worst. I
Ugh,
think I think they're worse than the psychics. Like they think they're going to get a TV show and I just feel like then write a book, like do something productive instead of just showing pictures with orbs and making up stories. You know what
yeah.
I mean? Cuz I think the ghost hunters really and they're all angry at each other and they're all very like catty with each other and calling each other hacks and that just cracks me up because it's like, really? I mean, you've had ghost hunters on the show, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
do you notice there's a big competitive energy with them?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I remember when I was in San Diego, one of the big tourist type attractions for people who like this kind of stuff is the Whaley House. And there was, I don't remember if it was the official Ghost Hunters or some other group that did that kind of thing that had booked a few hours at night or overnight to do it. And they were so full of themselves and
Oh,
so rude, stomping through the house, yelling at the ghosts to come out. And it's all theater.
and they think they're going to get all this evidence in 3 hours. It
Yeah.
takes hours and hours and hours just to get a tad bit of evidence.
Nobody wants to.
Like it's crazy. But they are so, I don't know how to explain it, but I've had ghost hunters ask me to come in and work with them. And I'll go work with them and then they'll like slam on me like we know more than you do. And
Uh,
I just find it like so weird. Like that is the weirdest thing to me. Like you wanted to work together. Like let's work together. So, yeah.
I knew somebody who worked for the Whaley House who was like in a management sort of position, and I was going to broadcast from inside the Whaley House, and I thought that would be really cool. And I saw this, I had been catching this one guy's videos who does several different kinds of spirit box things and stuff like that. And he was only, I don't remember where he was, in LA, maybe Phoenix, but not that far. So I had asked him if he would like to join me, and he was very excited about it. And then when I wasn't going to pay him to drive there and for anything else, suddenly radio silence, not interested anymore.
Oh, it's so ridiculous. I and the house cleansers. Okay, if we're talking ethical, let's talk about people who offer to come and cleanse your home for like $500.
Yeah.
And I ran into this last winter. A woman called me and asked me to what I would charge to come and sage. And I'm like, I'm not going to charge you. I'm going to teach you how to do it so that you can be in charge of your own spiritual hygiene in your building. Like, I would never dream of charging for that. And I just feel like that is the weirdest thing to me for somebody to charge. And she said the girl she had called before me said like $460 or something.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I
If
I, I
if I
just
were going to do that for somebody and I was going to charge, it would be like $5 to buy the sage.
yeah,
That's it. I'll buy, you can pay for your own sage and I'll come and I'll show you how to do it.
100%. I mean, I just felt like it was good karma to go do it for her and just, teach her how and be done. I don't believe that you should have to call somebody every time you want to cleanse your building because or your home because homes need to be cleansed so often. Like I really think people should sage once a week, honestly. So can you imagine? Here's my weekly sage appointment. But there's people who make a living just doing that.
Wow.
Yes.
I put that right up there with curse removal, where people
Oh,
are charging hundreds, if not thousands.
and never doing any work, really. Just
Right.
keep them coming back. That's a gypsy thing. So, and gypsies are, and I hate to say it this way. And when I say gypsy, I'm talking about the people who come and set up a shingle and rent a building. And it's usually a woman working under a fake name. And she dresses like a gypsy, kind of. And she'll do a really quick 15-minute reading that's pretty good, but then tell you have a dark energy and that for this time I'm only going to charge you $100, but next time I need to see you on Wednesday for this to work, and it's going to be 200. And then it gets larger and larger, and I've met
Right.
so many people who've lost so much money, and they've lost so much money before they figured out that it was a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I did readings at this cute little shop in San Diego, and the owner was afraid to get into this kind of thing, but I said this would be a great money maker for the store. Curse removal, $25, and it's enough money that people feel like they're paying something, but it's not ridiculous and it's not punishing anybody. And, $25 for them to feel better. Okay, that seemed fair. But she didn't want to invite that kind of energy in. And
I wouldn't, I mean, I'd rather like help them learn how to clear their chakras and learn how to ground and things like that, because
yeah,
that by far will help you more. I mean, a curse only works if you believe in it.
right,
So honestly, I tell people if you quit putting energy into it, quit talking about it, quit believing in it, it has no power.
right.
So, yeah. But if you believe it, and believe me, if curses worked, every president of the United States, one party would put a curse on them or the other party would. And that president wouldn't make it through 4 years, would they?
I
Just
would
saying.
hope not. I would hope
There's
not.
enough hateful people that would curse a president,
Oh yeah.
right? And I'm not saying I'm one of them. I would never do a curse anyway. I'm just saying that if curses really worked, we would see. I mean, there is the Kennedy curse thing. I'm not even going to say that that isn't weird. And we'll talk about that on a whole
Yeah.
other show. That would be fun. But I think that's just bad karma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the whole curse thing is it's the power of suggestion. It is people being their own worst enemies. And like you said, if you believe it, you're going to have lousy days if you believe it, and things will go wrong, and you'll get stuck at every light, and you may have car trouble, and blah 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 blah. Whatever you think, whatever you're so afraid of, if you keep giving it energy,
Right. 100%. 100%.
but if you
We
come to
should do a
Ken's
show on the Kennedy
curse
curse
removal,
because that would be fun.
yeah,
That would be super fun because there's a
um,
lot to unpack there.
yes, ethics. I think of when I think about ethics, I not to make it all about me, but I remember when I was first exposed to real mediumship, and it absolutely blew my mind. And the person that was teaching, I guess, got a big kick out of the fact that it sort of freaked me out. So she would tell me things which may or may not have been true to see how I'd react, and she was having fun, and it never stopped. She just kept doing that until I wasn't gonna deal with her anymore.
Wow.
But yeah, it's just I mean there are some people that enjoy that kind of thing.
I mean, before I started doing readings, I went to a party. I mean, I was doing tarot, and there was a reader there. He's passed away now. It was so long ago, and he was out of Chicago. And when I sat down, he said, "You are going to be known in a big way." He said, "People are going to know your name." I'm like, okay. And I said, "How is that?" I'm in my mid 30s. Like, I do not believe I'm going to be well known. And he says, "Nope, I see a microphone in front of your face. You're going to be well known." And he says, "And you're going to do what I do." And he was one of the best mediums I'd ever seen in my life. And so after every reading, he would tell the spirit, "Go sit next to her." This is just a fun story, nothing about ethics. On the way home from that party, I had cigar smoke in my van. Hmm. I could roll the windows down, it would not go away. He literally was sending spirits to me. I know he wanted just to like get me to wake up to mediumship, honestly. And all the way home, no matter what I did, I could not get rid of that cigar smell. Isn't that funny?
I remember when I was in radio producing a morning show, early 90s, we had a I think she was local, a psychic medium on. And when the microphones were off, she was pitching the idea of us having some kind of station party where we would invite lots of our advertisers, and she would be there to go around and talk to them and let them know that she saw so much success when they because they were advertising. And I just
Oh my
remember
God.
her saying that and just feeling like, oh,
Oh, you've been duped.
yeah, I,
Yeah. Oh my God. So I have spent a lot of time in radio stations doing readings.
mhm.
And through the early 2000s, I was in a radio station 2 a week. I was everywhere from Madison to Rockford. And it was just all the time doing national ones, doing ones in Oklahoma over the phone. It was crazy fun. But now you can't get on a radio. unless you pay for advertising. And it's all changed. And so they will not have you as a regular guest unless you pay for advertising. So it's kind of funny. She was trying to make herself valuable to you.
Yes.
So she would always have her spot. And that is crazy to me.
Yeah. And the way she so effortlessly brought this up and had the whole plan, immediately I thought, okay, this is not the first time she's had this idea. I
She's
wonder how
pitched
many
it to other
stations
places.
she has done this to and told people, hey, if you advertise, I see so much success for you. And I thought, oh,
Wow.
wow,
Wow.
that's
See, those are the things that really bother me.
yeah,
I, I mean, the other thing that really bothers me is overcharging when you're brand new. I did two years of free readings, 2 years, because I wanted to read for strangers. I knew if I read for strangers, I could understand my value if I was good or if I wasn't good. So I spent 2 years just free readings, trying to find out if I had confidence to continue and charge. Like, I just felt like that was basic training. And now you tell these readers, you should do something very low cost to get going. They're not interested. The new readers want the same price as the old readers.
yeah. And you don't find that in I don't think in any other line of work. There's nobody who graduates from law school and thinks they're going to charge what a 40-year veteran
Partner.
of, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
nobody's gonna do that.
Even
But
hair, when I did hair, you still had to go through your I'm the
yeah,
new girl phase and charge less and, prove your worth by shampooing for everybody and doing, taking rollers out for people and rinse and perms and blah, blah, blah. You had to prove your worth. So I guess I'm just that old school person that believes that. But
yeah. Nobody wants to take the time. We've gotten to so much of a instant gratification kind of
internet,
thing.
social media,
Yeah. Where, okay, I took the class. Now I want to start seeing the money come rolling in. So what's the going rate? That's what I'll charge.
when I first started doing radio, there was no social media at all, nothing. And then MySpace came about. And I remember being on the radio promoting my MySpace page. But one of the things I was going to bring up, and was it you and I that talked about maybe websites are outdated? And I said, I
Yeah.
don't believe that. So I do not believe websites are outdated. I think that you can always modernize your website. I have groups on my website. So it's more interactive. There's loyalty points and things like that that really make it worth going to. But I do believe that if this is your living and this is your business, you better have a website. And I know I just feel like if you pay for a website, it says you're serious about your business.
Yeah. There are a lot, not just of metaphysical people, but a lot of people in many different kinds of businesses who feel like having their social media presence is enough. But the thing is,
It can go
MySpace,
away.
MySpace
Went
Titanic,
away.
it went away. Twitter became X and is dying. Facebook keeps changing things all the time, driving
I can't
people
even use
away.
my Facebook right now. I can't even use it to advertise or do anything with because they don't think it belongs to me.
And they don't, and you're supposed to be able to report
They keep
whatever.
telling me they
And
fixed it, but it never gets
yeah,
fixed.
it
Yeah.
doesn't get fixed. They decide that that person isn't violating community standards, even though they're pretending to be someone else. I had somebody who sent me a friend request, and it was very creepy because it was my father who passed away 5 years ago.
Oh,
And I was pretty sure if my dad has something to say to me, he's going to say it
he
to
would
me.
have,
He's
yeah.
not going to open up a new Facebook page. So I contacted Facebook and they weren't going to do anything. And I said, my father died 5 years. Well, it was less, but and I'm pretty sure this is not him, but he stole the picture, and here's the link to my father's Facebook page. And then finally something happened,
Well, I
but
mean,
it's crazy.
I like with my website, you're not going to have bad algorithm. If you join one of the groups on there, if I post something in the group, you will see it. You're also going to sign in under your name in my website. You're going to know it's me that you're talking to and not a fake. So that's why I think it's very valuable, in a day and age of people stealing your likeness. Like, who's going to pay for a website with your name? Like, they're not going to do that, but they will do it with TikTok. They'll do it with Facebook. And so,
Yeah,
if you want to be sure, and that's why I created a free membership so that people know it's mine.
with social media, 5-10 minutes you can create a fake page very easily, and that includes stealing pictures and all that stuff. It would take you longer to set up a website and pay for the domain name and everything that goes into it and build
Right.
it. And
That's
nobody's
why
going
I
to take
think
the
it is a
time.
valuable tool. Like,
Yeah.
that's your person that you're, dealing with.
When I
So
said when I said that websites were outdated, what I meant by that is more that people are out of practice of looking for websites. We're so used to the social media boom that that's where they go to look for for psychics or for plumbers or for whoever, or they go
I
to
agree.
Yelp.
I
I
agree.
don't think that most people would just do a Google search for psychic near me or not even necessarily near
Oh,
you.
my Google Analytics will argue with you.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I moved from one state to the other. I'm only 35 minutes away. I just jumped the state line. But now, Jonna in Wisconsin is Jonna in Illinois. But thank God my name isn't Mary, or Joan or something more common.
Right.
People, if they know my name, they pretty much know they're going to get me. However, I did meet another Jonna who is a medium.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes.
There is another Ken Kessler who I don't know if this magazine is still around, but he used to write for Stereo Review. And there is one who does something with antique watches. And I will, every once in a while, I'll get an email or I will get a message on Facebook. It was so great to run into you at that conference in Wales. And I was like, okay, well, I've never actually been to Wales. Pretty sure you're thinking of somebody else.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Um,
Well, yeah, I just feel like that, if you really want somebody that is not copying a page or, is taking their business seriously, check out their website. That's all I'm saying, because that is a piece of the puzzle that shows you respect your business.
and reach out to Jonna or to whoever's website you land on and ask some questions. If they're not open to answering, and I don't mean ask some questions like, what was my
Yeah,
lucky
what was my
combination?
pet's name when I was 5 years old? We all get that. Like,
Right. But
mhm.
ask some questions about how they do readings or if they do whatever it is that you're looking for or that
But don't
kind of
say,
thing.
can I ask, can you tell me about yourself? Because the website actually does.
Right. Right. But you know, most I did some research before I picked a primary care physician.
Mm-hmm.
I do research when I'm looking for a dentist, when I'm looking for a handy
Tires.
person, whatever. It's the same kind of thing. Do some research because all
And if their
psychics are not the
prices
same.
are not listed on their page, I say move on because then there's something hinky.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
Yeah, I just feel like if they're hiding their prices and you have to make an appointment to find out what the prices are, then they've got all your information now. And you got this far into the process of registering and getting your appointment set up. And then you find out it's going to be $150 for 15 minutes and you want to back out. Now they have your information. You're going to get an email from them once a month forever.
Right. Plus, they may be selling your information to who knows.
Maybe. I've never had anyone approach me about buying my email list. And I have a big one. So,
But it
yeah.
also says in more than one place on your website that all the information stays with you. It doesn't go
Mhm.
anywhere. And I think that's great. That's something that you should definitely look for. And if it's not there, there's a question to ask. And ask how long they if it doesn't say that they've been reading tarot cards or talking to dead people or whatever for X number of years, ask how long have you been
But they
doing this?
lie. They lie, Ken. I had a girl take my class in pandemic time, and now she's been reading for 25 years.
Wow. Wow, your class aged or
I swear to God. I swear to
uh,
God. And that's why I don't say I had powers as a child. I saw dead people as a child. I knew I had something going on. I couldn't figure it out or place it or understand it. But I'm not going to say that I was psychic as a child. I really developed it after a spiritual awakening, which I think resonates with so many more people.
and there's definitely, speaking of spiritual awakenings, there's big power there. And for a lot of people, they get almost evangelical about it when they have their
Because
moment.
it's such a high, it's so
Yeah.
euphoric. I think that people just want to talk about it. And I always say your vibration changes and you meet other people in the same vibration. So you can be going through a spiritual awakening and have somebody in the grocery store line bring up a spiritual conversation that you're unexpected with. Like it's crazy how that happens.
Yeah.
And that has happened so many times. Like that, it's just like, oh, you're this was a namaste moment. Your soul recognized my soul. That's what I feel like that happens. Your vibrations just connect.
I think also when you have that moment or moments of spiritual awakening, when you have the aha moment or whatever, I think that's one of the things that lead people to, I want to share this, I want to teach this. And that in itself, just what I said, that's good. But it's when they go overboard. I know more than you.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, absolutely. I have a funny ethical story for you. I had a local party the other day, and when she booked the party, she says, I talked to your college roommate. And I'm like, my college roommate? I didn't, I went to beauty school and I didn't have a roommate. And she's like, no, no, no. She told us twice she was your college roommate and she's a new reader.
oh my God.
And um, she offered to do readings for us. And she said she was your college roommate. I mean, I have I've done psychic parties for 20 years around here, so people know who I am. If they haven't hosted a party, they've been to a party. Because for a while I was doing 4 a week, like it was crazy. So for her, and I think I know who it is, and she used to stay at my house a lot because she would camp out there and not go home. But she never bought food, she never paid a bill, nothing. And now all of a sudden she's my college roommate, and she didn't go to college either. So I could not. And I'm like, I asked her, I said, are you sure you're not mistaking this? Like, and she's like, no, she told us 2 different times on 2 different times that we talked to her. Like, one was at a bar, one was in an office, and I'm Jonna's college roommate. Mm-hmm.
It. always amazes me when people will tell a lie that is so easily disproven.
And for spiritual reasons to gain business in a
Yeah.
spiritual,
Yeah,
oh,
that's a
come
bad look.
on. Oh, so bad.
Yeah.
So bad. I mean, I was shocked over that one. Then years ago, oh God, way back in the early 2000s, every Saturday I read at a different crystal shop or new age shop. So I would be, you know, every 5 weeks it was a rotation. So I had 5 shops every 5 Saturdays. I just go around my circuit. And this girl befriended me somehow and for a reading, and then she was very like charming and disarming, and oh, she wanted to be my best friend, and she kind of drove me crazy. And then next thing I know, she's a reader, which I had no idea. And then she went around to all these places, which was on my website where I was every week. And she went to all these places and says, Jonna recommends me that
Uh,
I do readings here. Yes.
wow.
So, I mean, the ethics in this business, like, I feel like this is a business where you should be more ethical than even a plumber, because you're doing God's work, you're doing spiritual work. And I feel like sometimes this is the most unethical kind of business there is because of people like that, and that's what gives us a bad name.
Yeah. I
So
remember this doesn't really connect, but I hope you find it to be an amusing story. When I was a traffic reporter back in the 80s, and I was
you were
not
Les Nessman?
no, but
Oh,
I
was
was
he the farm report guy?
yeah,
Okay,
and
go
and
ahead.
the news guy, but I was out in a car driving in rush hour traffic and reporting to the main traffic guy, and there was this house way out near the airport, and I used one of the feeder roads to go around to try and stay out of the big traffic. And there was a sign in the yard that it was uh, psychic. I don't psychic readings. I don't remember what else it said, but something like that. So it was always a little bit of a conversation when I went past it. And then one day I drove past it and there was a car parked facing the road in their lawn and it had a big sign on it that it said it was for sale. And I joked on the air that if they were really a good psychic, they would have waited to put the car out there until the person who was going to buy it was coming by. The next day, it was gone.
Oh, that's funny. That's so funny.
So,
My dog
uh,
is losing her mind here. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like this is a business where you need to really be transparent and you really need to live up to a different standard. And I just keep meeting readers who they don't want standards. Like they don't want truth. They don't want to, there's readers who will only read one person at a time instead of a group. That is a key for me. If you want to know who's a good reader, go to one of their groups. But if they tell the same story to the same people over and over again in private appointments, which there are people who will do that, and then they're not good. I want to see them with 4 or 5 different people and tell each person their own stuff
yeah,
that is not the same formula that they use in each session.
yeah, that seems that seems right. And it's so easy, the stuff that you have mentioned where people are just lying about their credentials or resume or whatever. It's so easy to find that stuff out. So, I mean, if they say that they're Jonna's roommate, you can certainly reach out to Jonna through her website, but that's not always the case that it's that easy. But if they say they've been reading for 25 years, if there's no digital footprint in this day and age for them beyond the last 2 months, something smells funny about that.
Oh my God. I mean, That's what I'm saying. I think my first radio show was 2001. The first time I was on the radio for doing readings, and I was doing a morning show every week. And then it just progressed into this huge radio thing. And so a lot of people in this area, they're like, oh, you're the radio girl. Like, they remember that. And because I was on every single station in the surrounding areas. And so, I mean, around here, I have definite like cred, but somebody
Mhm.
in Florida, well, I've done readings all over Florida too. But honestly, I feel like you can really fool people on social media if you try hard enough. So you're right. They need a footprint.
And the problems is that people who are, I don't want to say desperate, but who are really trying to find a medium won't catch a lot of these red flags because they're hurt, they're grieving, whether it's the loss of
Yeah,
somebody or a loss of a relationship or a job. They want somebody to somebody to tell them it's going to be okay.
I did a show. We had about 50 people in the audience a couple weeks ago in a small town where my mother was born. And right away, the first reading out, I mentioned the name Braden. And they're like, that's our son. And all night long, names kept flying through. Now, I find names to not be challenging. Like, it's kind of weird, but I get names. And then I meet readers um, who are doing parties, who are having, a website, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, I'm a medium. And they're like, but I don't get names. I'm like, I didn't want to call myself a medium until I got names. So, I mean, you see a lot of readers. How many do you think get names?
You really, most don't, and many of them will, I don't want to say make an excuse, but will basically make an excuse on why they don't get names.
Lisa Williams, do you know who she is?
Hmm.
I saw her live a couple of years ago. And the first thing she said is, I don't get names, but that doesn't mean I'm not accurate. And she says it's not important to get a name. And everybody in the audience knew me. It was local. Like Ken thought I was a big star walking in the place because everybody's like, Jonna, Jonna. But it was all my people. Like they're going to go see, like, we're all going to be together. And so everybody kind of turned and looked at me like, you should go up there and let her know. No, no, no. But I could not believe, I mean, she's had a TV show. She's travels the US. And the first thing she says is don't expect names.
I know a lot of people who say something similar to that, and I don't know why.
You should not be in front of an audience if you can't get names.
I've had readings from people before, and my grandfather. I was gonna say what's his name, but I'm not gonna throw you. Um, but my grandfather's name was Kermit, which is and today unusual unless you're a frog.
But you know how I would have got that? You know how I would have got the name Kermit?
Would you have seen the frog?
Nope. I would have heard Rainbow Connection.
Oh, okay.
And I'll explain that in a whole nother thing about how my ADD makes me hear one thing and say another.
But I will. I remember one person who when Tapestry was on Blog Talk, and I had lots of different kinds of metaphysical people come in. I remember one person, and I feel bad that I can't get their name right now. I can't remember what their name was, but they said that they felt somebody around me, and for some reason, every time they try to figure out who it is, they see Kermit the Frog.
Oh,
And I said, okay,
that makes sense.
that's legit. But
Mm-hmm.
so many don't even try.
Mm-mm.
They just have decided that I don't get names.
Again, that's the ones who think it's easy money.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what freaks me out is I that's how the reason I can do names is I did it free for 2 years with no expectation from the people who were getting free readings. And that's when I started trying to get names. Now, you can't charge somebody $90 for half an hour and try to practice getting names because you look already established. You know, it's kind of
Yes.
doing it backwards. And I feel like because I did that 2 years of just boot camp, psychic boot camp, and I was able to get names, that's when I really knew I could do this and make it work. You know, but when I was just so shocked at Lisa Williams, because John Edward, he doesn't always get names. He'll say, "Oh, I get a J," you know, I get a B. But like when I did that show, the first people on stage, I was like Braden, and they're like, "That's our son," and that has happened so many times. And people like, I want to give a name on the first reading when I'm on stage because everybody is on there on the edge, hoping they're going to get
Mhm.
called. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like it's so important. And I know somebody's probably listening going, well, I don't get names, but I'm still a good reader. Of course, you're a good reader. You just need practice or you just need a way to connect to names. And it's
Yeah.
not that hard.
It's not the same. It's not the same for everybody, but I think certainly because of TV and movies, that a lot of us are expecting a disembodied voice to say their
Whoopi
name's
Goldberg.
Paul. Um,
Well,
and
and
in
so
my
I grew
experience,
up,
it doesn't work that way.
I think you're younger than me. I grew up in the 70s, late 60s, 70s, and we didn't have cable, but I watched a lot of TV. I'll tell you that. And I'm going to tell you, when I hear the song, I'm a little bit country, I know their name is Don. And if I if I see Greg Brady on a surfboard, I know that person's going to Hawaii. Hmm. So
Oh,
1970s iconic TV is very much in the back of my mind because I don't think about it. It's nothing that I think about at any level, but I can tell you that when I'm doing a reading, those things will pop through my mind's eye, and I know I have to explain it. I was doing a reading for a girl at a party, and I was bringing her uncle through who had taken his own life. And all of a sudden, in my mind's eye, I saw the Brady Bunch grid, and they started disappearing in the squares until Peter was the only one left. And I told her that instead of trying to decipher it myself, I just said, "This is what I'm seeing." And she says, "Well, you're bringing through my Uncle Pete."
see, I think that the whole practice thing is something that new people just don't want to do.
No.
They think I've taken the class, I know how to do this. That's good enough. And
And I learned on Oprah 10,000 hours before you're an expert. That's why it says I've done over 20,000 readings on Facebook because I have.
I remember I remember somebody telling me early on in my on my path, a great way to practice was to take a deck of cards and just try and figure out before you turn the card over, red or
Visually.
black. And it was very frustrating the first time I went through, but then I sort of relaxed. And I got little clues, like I would hear Johnny Cash, and that's a black card. Okay. So when I would
Mm-hmm.
pay attention, I it was much easier. But that wasn't something that I did, on a street corner for money or anywhere else for money.
No, it's a great exercise, and I use that when I'm teaching students. That is one of the workshops we do, and it really does work. Like it really, really, really does work. The other thing I teach them, and I had a class who had no idea of American geography. Like they, it was so bad. I'm like, close your eyes and put a pin in the map. I'm thinking of a state. Put a pin in the map in your mind's eye and tell me what state. And they nobody knew geography. They thought Tennessee was down by Arizona. I swear to God. So that was one of the hardest things. But that's one of the things I do in my mind's eye. I see the pin go in the map and I know that, oh, you're going on vacation in Tennessee. Like there's so many ways to get information, but I feel like people go take a class, learn one way of doing things, and that's how they're going to do it. And and it's really, if you can't incorporate all the stuff, you're not going to get any better.
And part of what you have to incorporate is you. What works for you. I know one of the first things I did, I took a course that John Edward offered on his website, and he talked about flowers because that's his thing. He sees flowers,
Yes.
and this flower means
Roses.
this, and
Hmm.
this one means that. And I thought, well, crap, I don't know anything about flowers. This is never going to work for me. And the flowers don't
Mm-mm.
don't work for me, but music does.
Music is
So
huge for me too. Yes.
yeah, so
And the
I figure out
1970s music is even like when I get Brandy, You're a Fine Girl, I know somebody was a bartender.
I remember having somebody on Blog Talk, a caller who was in New York who had asked something. I don't know what her question, I don't even remember what her question was about, but I said, I'm hearing Ray Charles, Georgia in my mind, but I don't know how that connects to whatever it was she was talking about. She said, I have family in Georgia and they want me to move down there.
See?
Okay.
And you have to trust it. You
Yeah.
have to trust that enough to speak it aloud and bring it into play. And those are the times where people are going to say, I did not get a vague reading. He said Georgia, and I'm thinking about going there. Now, they're not always going to remember how you got Georgia, but they know you said Georgia, and that was
Right.
important to them at the time.
Right.
So, yes. And so I believe, like, I always say, everybody can do this. Not everybody has the balls to do it. And if you have the balls to do it right.
Yes.
You
And
know, give real information
the other thing about it, and I have said so many times on this podcast that everybody can do this. Everybody can play baseball. Everybody can paint, but you have to put in a lot of time to be good at it. And the truth is, not everybody is going to be. Oh, I was going to try and throw out a baseball player's name, but they're all, I would say, like Tom Seaver, but I don't know if younger people remember. But you know, you're not necessarily going to be a Hall of Fame player, or you're not going to be Rembrandt, or you're
right.
not
Or you
gonna.
might just
But
be the one of those local teams like for your city and travel around like that. And that's fine. But like I always say, you have to have a little bit of natural ability to really make it work well. Everybody can do this, but if you have natural ability, you're going to blossom.
yeah,
But I have no singing ability whatsoever. So I could not take lessons and do 10,000 hours of singing and end up being Celine Dion. I wouldn't get out of my town. I wouldn't get out of my house because no matter how much I practice, I'm tone deaf. I'm never going to be able to hear tone.
yeah,
You know
me
what I'm
too.
saying?
Exactly. I can't carry a tune in a bucket with a handle on it. I,
I can sing with the radio, but
I,
that is not what it takes.
right.
So exactly. So I feel like if you have some natural ability, you're probably going to go further than somebody who just is an accountant and decides they're going to be a psychic medium.
But you know what else? When you take a class, when for whatever reason you're guided to take a class in tarot reading or mediumship or I Ching or whatever, and it connects with you, it's okay if that's just something for you. That's a special little something that
That you play with. Yeah.
you can connect with, and it enriches your life some and makes you feel good. That's okay. You don't have to take a class so that you can be on stage in an HBO special.
Right. There's a lot of funny people, but they aren't comedians.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay if you take a class and you take it because it enriches your life. It makes you happy. It makes you feel good. It gives you something that maybe you
Growth.
didn't have before. That's great. I know one of the first things for me was the the idea that we all go on, that this isn't it. That was huge. That was really big for me because I'm not sure I really believed it before. But now and I don't want to be too egotistical, but I feel like now I know. And
So,
but that was just a big deal for me. And I did want to shout it from the rooftops. And I may have been really annoying when it clicked in for me, but I didn't feel as egotistical as I am. I didn't feel like I knew more than anyone else and that it was time for me to open up my own store. When I started Psychic Tapestry, when this was all starting for me, I was I was still a skeptic and moving from being a skeptic, but I was not doing readings. I was interviewing people and
you were creating your circle.
yeah,
Hmm.
I didn't feel I hadn't practiced. I just didn't feel like I had enough experience in it beyond knowing that what I knew.
I've always been a huge book reader from the time I was third, fourth grade. And I would read inappropriate material, and that made me a better reader. So in fourth grade, I had my sister's Cosmo, like in the bedroom with a flashlight, like trying to read it. And but I always felt that reading very inappropriate material before my time really made me a better reader. And I think I was in fourth grade when the book was going around of the reincarnation of Peter Proud. Do you remember that?
I do.
And my mom read it, my sister read it, my brother read it, and they were significantly older than me. And I here's Jonna the reader going, I got to read this book. But they all were like trying to hide it and keep it away from me because they didn't want me reading this material. Because back then, reincarnation and those kind of topics in 1974, that was like really like juju weird,
Yeah.
black magic, as my dad called it. And I finally got my hands on that book, and I did read it with a flashlight under the covers. And it was my first opening into this arena that I could learn from. And then I got my hands on, and I can't even believe I can remember this author's name. Her name was Lois Duncan, and she wrote teen, adolescent kind of books, young adult books, and it was all paranormal in nature. And she wrote the book, I Know What You Did Last Summer, that became the movie.
Hmm.
And I read that when I was like in seventh grade, I think, in 1977. But I remember finding her stuff and just loving her stuff at that time. There was a book she wrote about these girls who could astral travel and that, past lives. It was just amazing. So my interest in this is way back before I even hit junior high. Like it was fascinating to me.
I watched all of the In Search of episodes and Project Blue Book and all of those 70s shows and I fascinated and I wanted to know more and I have a big library of all kinds of stuff. When I lived in North Carolina, the Parapsychology Institute was in Durham, about half an hour away. I paid them a visit and got a tour. It was all, it was just fascinating. I just couldn't get enough.
Yeah, that's back when there wasn't ghost hunters on every block, too.
Right.
Like, yeah. We grew up with Bewitched. We grew up with I Dream of Jeannie. There was magic in our childhood.
Hmm.
And I swear that's why so many people are in our generation are tuned into this. It's something that we grew up with. And what I was going to ask is, do you remember the show The Girl with Something Extra?
I remember the name, but I don't remember
It was
the
John
show.
Davidson, and I can't remember if it was Sally Field that played his girlfriend, and she had ESP.
Ooh,
And it was like a summer pilot. I don't know if it only lasted like 5 episodes. It was not a show, but that show was like oh my God, I love this show. And I honestly, if I saw it now, I'd probably think it was so stupid. But in fifth grade, I thought that was the greatest thing on earth, the ESP factor. So I do feel like when this is in your soul, it's in your soul. You know, I wasn't doing readings and seeing dead people in fifth grade, but I was watching dumb TV shows.
yeah.
And I was reading books and the interest was there. And I feel like that's energy that you can feel. You know, anybody can say, I've done readings since I was 4 years old or whatever. I saw grandma at my bedside. That's the famous one.
Right.
Everybody saw grandma at their bedside.
Yeah.
But
Or in the rocker in the corner.
yeah. And I just feel like, you know, when that's your interest and that's what you want to do, like, you know, when you're little, like that is such a big interest for you, it's going to take you somewhere. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah. And that's, to bring it all back around to the ethics thing, that's not something that somebody can really fake unless they're stealing somebody else's story, copying and pasting it. So maybe instead of asking how long you've been doing this, why do you do this?
Because I'll tell you why I do it. I can't not.
Yeah,
I do readings every single day. And honestly, I can't not do it.
I think it's an amazing gift, and I'm very grateful, and I can't imagine not. Yeah,
I hate
I
the
can't.
word gift. I hate it. That's like
Well,
moist. So I like the word ability.
I use gift because I got pushed into this and I wasn't looking for it. I never thought about it. Even when I went to I don't remember what they called it, when the psychic is in front and there's,
Like a gallery.
yeah, like a gallery. Even when I went to that and just having my mind opened to the possibilities and everything, but actually connecting, I do feel like that is a gift. And I feel like it was a gift because I wasn't looking for it and I wasn't trying to find it. And the truth is, I probably didn't want to just because I didn't
But
know.
but how much education have you given yourself to make it your ability?
Since then, uh, hours and days and weeks and months and
Exactly.
yeah,
That's all I'm saying
yeah.
is there's one thing with a gift. A gift is this and something you can give away and something that you don't always keep, but an ability is a way of life.
Okay. Okay. I hadn't really looked at it like that because I am grateful that I can connect with who I can connect with.
And that will keep your vibration high. I think gratitude is huge. And I have
Yeah.
so much gratitude. And I would say, this is my lottery. Some people win the lottery. I get to do readings. And I was lucky enough to figure out that I had the ability through maybe a small gift. But I don't think it was. It was really like I did hair and I could feel energy when I shampooed people. I knew what they were going to talk to me about. I was touching their crown chakra. I was pulling information out of them. Like, I was just sensitive enough to feel it where other people may not be. Is that a gift? Is it an ability?
Maybe it's kind of both.
I think.
Yeah. And speaking of the lottery, we should do an episode about the lottery, but that's for another time.
Yes, you're never going to be on the show My Lottery Dream House. I'm telling you right now. That
Um,
is a great idea to do a show on like if we can change our path and make things happen, or if
yeah.
our path is just our path.
Well, I have enjoyed and also wasted lots of time on the lottery, so I'll be glad to talk about that. Before we wrap up, you've got a busy rest of the month. Next week, you're back in Illinois for Mystic Wednesday.
Oh, Hope and Anchor. Yep. Yep. That's always a fun night. And then the Optimistic, I think, on the
Yeah,
20. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. And I'm going to be in Monroe at Rowdy's once a month in Monroe, Wisconsin to do private readings in the speakeasy in the basement.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you are in or around or within driving distance of any of the places we mentioned, or you're just curious, go to Jonna's website, mediumjonnakay.com, and check out where she's going to be. And there's a little thing on there to find out more about it and to also RSVP.
Yes. And if you RSVP, you get loyalty points if you are a member of my website.
Very cool.
Which gives you discounts. Loyalty points obviously give discounts. So the more active you are on the website, I also have groups you can join that are free, like the Busy Bees, events. There's all kinds of different things. I have a paid group you can join. There's just fun things to do. And like I said, I try to make my website a little more interactive and fun.
Nice. And like I had mentioned before, none of your information goes anywhere. So
Mm-mm.
so
Yep.
this is good. And and the bonus of Jonna's groups is that when stuff gets posted there, you'll find out about it. Because if stuff gets posted on Facebook, good luck.
Right. There's no algorithm on my groups in my website. If you want that information and I post it, it comes to you.
Cool.
So,
Very cool. Well,
yeah.
thank you so much for talking about all this, and we'll talk
Thank
more in
you.
depth about the lottery maybe next time. Uh,
So many things. I really want to do the Kennedy curse now. I think that would be
okay.
so fun
Okay.
because, I mean, honestly, if there is such a thing as the Kennedy curse, and I don't know, see, now I'm having mixed feelings because of RFK. Because if there is a Kennedy curse, I wonder if it'll bang him over the head.
Well, he already had a worm in there.
I know. I know. This is what I'm saying. Is if you were RFK, do you think you'd want that position if there was such a thing as the Kennedy curse?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And that's something everybody can ponder until we're back. Hopefully, we'll be back with another episode in a couple of weeks. Jonna, thank you so much. It's always so much
Thank
fun talking to
you.
you.
Anytime. I'll come on and talk about anything.
And thanks everybody for listening. We certainly appreciate it. You can go to psychictapestry.com for more info about almost anything. I got to get a page up there for Jonna. And thanks again. And we'll see you in a couple weeks. And take care of yourself and tell people that are close to you that you love them. And we'll talk again soon.